KR, Decatur, Dallas, Fort Worth, and KYJC, Commerce. Portions of KDKR programming do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, why you should trade the debit card for a credit card. Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. I do have a line open if you'd like to call in and join the program with a question and or a comment. The number to call is 1-877-913-5357. If you'd rather go to the website, the brand new PrudentMoney.com website, you can go there, look for the Q&A, and there's a form. You fill it out, send your question in, and I will get back to you. I do answer all those questions myself. That's all at the website, www.prudentmoney.com. 1-877-913-5357. So I got to make a few comments on this whole debt ceiling business. Then we got to get to talking about something about that I posted today and why you should trade away that debit card, never to use it again. And I can back that up and tell you why. Just stick with me and we'll get to it. I was looking for some information on the debt ceiling. Like I said, everything has been very, very quiet this time around on a very hotly debated subject such as the debt ceiling, our America's credit limit. Democrats want to raise it. Republicans want to cut spending. But here's really the very, very bottom line on it. They can make all these cuts they want to, but they're still not doing anything about the bulk of the spending. So here, this was on Yahoo's finance page, the Washington Post, out of the Washington Post. Debt ceiling deal, 5 takeaways on its economic impact. Now, I was expecting an article with a lot of meat to it, talking about how this is going to really cut down on spending. Of course, I was being extremely naive and hopeful. Here we go. Number one, the plan would do very little to balance the budget. I thought that was kind of the point. The agreement would cut spending by $1.5 trillion over the next 10 years. Now, this is something that I don't once again understand. Maybe it's my lack of intelligence. I don't know. But it comes down to every time there's this, they present these deals, and the deal says, over the next 10 years. And what I would like to know is, where are we in that timeline on all these other deals they made in years past? But over 10 years, they're going to cut $1.5 trillion. Right now, we have $32 trillion worth of debt. And let me tell you, there's absolutely no sign of that debt going anywhere. All it's going to do is go up, because we spend in about 30 to 50% of our spending. I haven't heard the latest number, so I'm going to give you 30 to 50% is using debt as part of the spending. So it's not going to go down. And $1.5 trillion doesn't even move the needle. So once again, all this is somewhat of a joke. And then my absolute favorite, number 2, Americans' income is likely to take a hit as student loan payments would resume in September. Now, there is not a student loan borrower out there, I'm convinced of this, that doesn't know that at some point they're going to have to start paying back this money. And the fact that they put this part of the deal that it's going to have to start in September is the I don't even know what words to use for that. Crazy. There's got to be a stronger word than crazy. But the fact that they're using that as a point. Oh, we got those student loan borrowers to start paying back their money. Now, what would really be interesting to know is if the funny government accounting, funny numbers that they use, if they counted in the startup of student loan paybacks as new revenue, when it's not new revenue, it's revenue that's coming back to the government that always should have been there. But probably won't know the answer to that one. Number 3. Well, don't have a number 3. Number 4. The rock-solid job market is likely to soften a little bit. A weaker government spending, which I have yet to see, weaker government spending. But weaker government spending means fewer jobs. Overall, number 5, the plan wouldn't be a big drag on the economy. Now, whoever wrote this and came up with that number 5, I mean, of course it's not going to have a big drag on the economy. The economy is hardly going to be affected by this. And yet, as I've always said, both the Republicans and the Democrats both save face. And here we're going to the House of Representatives for a vote where this, I mean, why wouldn't you vote on it if you're, I mean, it's not going to do anything, really. But it'll be interesting to see if, for any reason, those politicians don't vote this bill through. I can't begin to tell you what a mess the markets are going to be, what a mess a lot of things are going to be. So it would be interesting to see if the Republican Party says, much like I'm saying, this is a joke. Can't even believe we're putting this out. McCarthy and President Biden put it together over a weekend. It didn't make any sense. So if they want to leverage the U.S. economy, stock market, and the bond market, then they won't vote this through. And that will be an interesting thing to watch. So that's my my take about the debt ceiling. I'm assuming that, well, the fact that they're having, I think I'm right on this, the vote tomorrow, and which really gave them 3 days to make sure that they have the number of votes that they need, tells me that they're having problems getting this through the House of Representatives. So there you have it. Not a big shocker. It's both parties win and everybody saves face, and we continue to spend our way into incredible financial irresponsibility. 1-877-913-5357. I do have a line open. Would love to hear from you. Today, I published an article about a texting fraud with a bank. I like to talk about this every once in a while when a good story comes out, because I want you to be informed of a couple things. Number one, what's going on. Number 2, how these scams work. But most importantly, number 3, how you could easily not fall for one of these scams. Because there is one thing that happens every single time that should be the biggest red flag. And if I'm asking you to be paranoid about everything, that's what I'm asking you to be, is paranoid, because I can't get over the number of emails and texts that I get saying, yeah, I know somebody who just lost $15,000. Yeah, I know somebody who just lost $25,000. So this is a story about Deborah Moss. She owned a small catering business, wanted to retire to a small, peaceful town in California. And she received a text message. And this is what we often don't think, even though I don't know about you, but I'm getting bombarded with text messages that have nothing to do with anything that I'm involved with. I'm assuming they're scams. Could be fraud or the attempt at it. But this article, and I'm going to read most of this to you because I think this is so very important that you get the gist of this. It says she received a text message purporting to be from her bank, which was Chase, inquiring about an unauthorized $35 debt card charge from another state. Initially dismissing it as a minor inconvenience, Moss promptly replied. Shortly after replying to the text, Moss received a call from someone claiming to be a representative from Chase Bank, with the caller ID displaying the bank's name. I'm going to pause right there. On the other side of the break, we'll talk more about this. 1-877-913-5357. This is Bob Brooks. Stick around. I'll be right back.
The Word for Today is excited to announce the new official online home for the ministry of Pastor Chuck Smith and K. Smith, PastorChuck.org. At PastorChuck.org, you'll have instant access to thousands of hours of verse-by-verse teaching by Pastor Chuck Smith from Genesis through Revelation, and full access to special messages on subjects such as prophecy and much, much more. Also at PastorChuck.org, a full library of great teachings by K. Smith, and a section where you can read some of Pastor Chuck's books online, all free of charge. So visit the new official online home of the Word for Today and the ministry of Pastor Chuck and K. Smith, PastorChuck.org.
There are literally thousands of promises in the Bible, blessings the Lord is just waiting to bestow on His children. But Pastor Greg Laurie is concerned that we ignore what could change our lives. This week on A New Beginning, Pastor Greg helps us plug in to the rich promises of God as we study the book of Romans. Tune in each day for A New Beginning.
A New Beginning, weekday mornings at 7:30, here on KDKR.
Worthy are you to take the scroll and to open its seals, for you were slain, and by your blood you ransomed people for God, from every tribe and language and people and nation, and you have made them a kingdom and priests to our God, and they shall reign on the earth. Please join us 1 p.m. Saturday and 7 a.m. Sunday with Pastor Jason Wallace for the hope that awaits us as believers.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show, 1-877-913-5357. I was talking about this, starting of this story about a small business owner who retired into a California, rural area in California. Her name is Deborah Moss. She put back a lot of money, saved her money to retire. Gets a text from Chase Bank stating that there was an unauthorized $35 debit card charge from another state. She promptly replied. A representative from Chase Bank with the caller ID displaying the bank's name. That's a new one that they're using. Caller ID helps legitimize the text or phone call. On the other end of the line was an individual identifying herself as Miss Barbara from Chase ATM. She requested permission from Moss to issue a new debit card to resolve the alleged fraudulent charge. Moss says Miss Barbara told her she needed to verify Moss's identity, and to do so, instructed Moss to read the numbers from a subsequent text message back to her over the phone. And I would just repeat those numbers to her, and she'd say, "That's great. Thank you so much, Miss Moss," said Moss. Over the next week, Miss Barbara called Moss several times, each time saying there was a problem with delivery of the card, and each time asking Moss to verify her identity by reading back the numbers from subsequent text messages. It wasn't until Moss visited her nearest bank branch that the devastating truth emerged. A supervisor informed her that her bank had been drained, leaving her very little of the nearly $160,000 completely depleted. That was all my money. It took me 12 years to get that money, and that was my life savings, Moss said. Moss' ordeal sheds light. Let me skip past that. Oh, actually, that's a little bit important. Moss's ordeal, sheds light on the escalating trend of fraud and the alarming financial losses suffered by Americans who reported losses reaching a staggering $8.8 billion last year, marking a 30% surge from the previous year. The text messages asking Moss to authenticate her account were authentic. They were sent by Chase Bank as part of the two-factor authentication system designed to enhance customer security. But the scammers deceived Moss into revealing the numbers to them over the phone, enabling them to bypass security measures and transfer large sums of money from Moss's account. In one week, they conducted 6 wire transfers, some as high as nearly $48,000. Moss filed a police report, submitted a claim to Chase Bank. However, her hopes were dashed after a 5-week wait. The bank denied her claim. Chase Bank appeared to fault Moss. Get this, writing her in a letter, "During our review, we found you did not take the appropriate steps to protect the account from theft or unauthorized use." I'm just going to stop there. That is unbelievable to me. The gall of Chase Bank to say they have no responsibility in this. Where did she, when she signed up for J.P. Morgan Chase, signed up for a bank account, I'm curious as to if she was tutored on the steps that she should take to make sure that $160,000 is not taken out of her bank account. In fact, where's Chase's policy to flag unusual activity? Where's that? Where's that responsibility? Is this a client that has taken out those large sums of money over a few, it was a limited amount of weeks. I can't remember exactly how many weeks it was, but it was a limited amount of weeks. Where's their responsibility? And this is something that you really, a question you need to ask your bank. What kind of responsibility do you take in the case of fraud? Supposedly, the answer to that is you have up to 60 days to report to a bank if there's been a fraud committed. And as long as you do it before 60 days, you can, based on the policies of the bank, have gotten your money back. Excuse me, but not this time. If it's over 60 days, of course this wasn't it, but if it's over 60 days, they have the bank has no liability at all. That's just unbelievable to me. What kind of steps are you to take to protect your account from theft or unauthorized use. And is there any place? I hope she's taking further action against this bank for this, because unless they have it documented, maybe they do. Maybe I'm being unfair. Unless they have it documented that here's the appropriate steps you should take to protect your account. I would think that most people think they don't have to protect their account. Of course, in this day and time, that's a little naive. But I would think minor fraud you wouldn't have to protect yourself from. But I would think the bank has some responsibility in protecting you from $160,000 being fraudulently taken out of your account. That just amazes me. That and of course there is there's a lot of people feel the same way about this. So the problems with banks. This is why, and the number one reason why I would stop using debit cards and use, if you can do it, and hear me out, and use credit cards not to accumulate debt, but as a spending vehicle to pay off at the end of the month, just like you would anything else. You don't want to accumulate debt. But number one, on a credit card, hear me out on this one, there's unlimited liability in most cases. There's no 60-day wait, that if you don't get it in before 60 days, your protection goes away. There's no limit on the amount of money. It's unlimited liability. And guess who calls you if they see suspicious activity? The credit card companies. You don't see the bank doing it. So unlimited liability, you could lose it all dealing with a bank. Number two, even though your debit card may have MasterCard or Visa on it, you are not getting any credit, any good exposure for your credit score or your credit report. If you use your credit card, you pay it off. You use it, you pay it off. That's good credit, positive credit activity, good for your credit score. The debit card does nothing for your score. And number three, I just throw this in there. Get to know someone. If you're going to use a debit card and you're going to really rely on your bank, get to know someone at that bank that you can call in case you have a problem. Because this is unbelievable that Chase would take absolutely no responsibility. Okay, so how could Mrs. Moss, how could you to protect yourself from this type of situation, with this type of fraud, this type of scam? It's very easy, and I wrote it on my blog today. I call it the golden rule of identity theft. If someone approaches you and wants personal information, exit from the conversation and call a number that you look up for the business they say they represent, and verify and validate that you're talking to somebody that is legit. Where she made her first mistake was responding to a text. And it's a text that approached her first. And I'm telling you, I'm sure you do too, get a ton of texts during the week that are clearly have nothing to do with real business. It's just trying to get personal information. So if you're approached by an email, disregard it. Legitimate companies don't use emails, and they don't approach customers. So if you're approached by an email if you're approached by a text, if you're approached by a phone call, if someone shows up at your house, has a uniform on and says they're with the electricity company or whomever else, and they're about to turn off your electricity because you never paid your bill. And the thing is that they catch you off guard, and they catch you when you're vulnerable, and they've created a fear, and in that gap you make a bad decision by giving them information. So that article is at the website prudentmoney.com. Go check it out. This is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com. Send it in because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time. Keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.